to be in the Special Olympics. And what you hear a lot of is that, the hugs, the high fives, and the medals. And I told her, I said, I don't see it that way.
Out here, you're a Special Olympics global ambassador. How did you get such a prominent position, and how do you train to be one?
Yeah.
Ah, there you go. You're moving up.
Yeah, exactly. Hi, I'm going to express interest the first year, and the next year, oh, I was asked to do it. But I think it goes back to what we were saying really earlier about, and I'm just going to paraphrase, people with disabilities taking initiative.
Does the Special Olympics do participation trophies or no?
They have participation ribbons.
Oh no.
Oh no, but I refuse to let that stop me. I said I'm
Wait,
going
hold
for
on.
gold,
I have here you won second place in bowling.
but that's not first place. But yes, I did.
That
Yes.
I mean that's pretty close though. That's as close as you'll ever be.
And I did it with an eye patch because I actually just had a surgery with that whole retina business.
So you had a
So
handicap on top of a handicap.
yeah.
Man, see, you should have won first place then. Work baby in the disabled community too much. It's a great organization. And I think the community is probably really great to feel inclusive, but it is doing more good or is it doing more harm for people?
I I think it
I think it's a hard question to answer. I don't think there's like a right or wrong. It's a difficult, it's a difficult topic.
gentle reminder of not everybody in the Special Olympics, they're even there to win medals. And I'm sitting there looking so dumbfounded. I'm sitting there thinking, no, no, everybody wants to win medals. And he's like, no, 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 no. Some people in the Special Olympics just want to make friends. So it's like having that human, it's they want that human connection. They don't care about the medals, they don't care about being the best. So
I'm gonna make an observation on your whole life story that I think
somebody who is neurotypical, because I would be lying if I said, no,
mm,
our life is easy. No, it's not. I can definitely say that my upbringing was difficult due to being hydrocephalic and having to be in the hospital and having 21 brain surgeries and having my head shaved and in some cases the procedure not working, so going back, and lo and behold 6 hours later they were like, yes, you have a diagnosis of autism. And I cried, not because I didn't speculate that I wasn't on the spectrum. I absolutely did. I just didn't want to hear it because once again, how the media portrays.
hello, welcome to my podcast, Two Mics, One Joe Stooch. I am Joe Stooch, and I'll be giving a mic to Amanda. She is a poet, author, life coach, and Special Olympics global ambassador. Like, let's talk about the special education. So, I was in special ed growing up too,
Uh-huh.
and it got me like a bad opinion on the whole disabled community because a lot of
Mm.
them, you knew a lot of them could not be able to handle the real world. Like, they'll never be a productive part of society, and like if you're among them, you're like it's difficult because you want to reach for the star, but you're grounded by the least denominator of the group because we have the saying of everyone's included, and that's great to an extent, but like sometimes you're really holding a lot of people down because is it worth it? Because the person at the bottom of the barrel will not be a productive part of society, so you're hurting the people that are on top that can reach for the stars. It's like a weird disconnect of like how do you include everyone but also accommodate everyone. And I just realized like I don't that's why I don't like the disabled community because it's too accommodating of everything and everyone, and it's just there are no boundaries anymore. And it's like you gotta establish some kind of boundary and some level of like holding we don't hold each other accountable. I mean, most people don't in the general sense, but like we don't hold each other accountable. We just keep scraping lower and lower. And it's like, I did it for my podcast. There are people that I wanted me to interview them. And I'm like, you don't have anything to interview about. Like, you have to have a great personality and we could probably make it work. But I need to see something from your end too. This is my business, and I kinda need it to work for me too. Like, I'm just not gonna interview you because you have a disability. Like, I don't care. I mean, like, it's hard to judge them, but also at the same time, it's okay to judge people that are not mentally there because they are not mentally there to watch my videos anyway, so they'll never know. But there are people out there that will never see the light of day. They'll never be a productive part of society, and they gotta take accountability for themselves. And I think like you mentioned, like people should help them, hold their hand, but I think that's hurting them in the long run because old people don't have people that hold their hand. They go out into the world and discover their talent and some such and so you say like we were talking about like the accountability to like regular people like they do they'll say so like I was talking about the story of like at the camp like so
Uh-huh.
if you grow up a woman and they slap you like you're not going to do that again but like in a regular person's mind, like, oh, women are not going to talk to me because I grew up this person. Like, they don't like that. Like, okay, that makes sense. But they don't want to change their ways, so they keep doing it. And then the thing is that the more they do it, the more secluded they become. And then they blame society of, hey, why are people not liking me anymore, inviting me and stuff. But at the end of the day, I think it comes down to you. I do, I, I do understand there is ableism and disabled people are not desired, and I get that to an extent, but, like, sometimes the problem is you, and they just don't wanna accept that, and they have to create value. I think that's what happens with relationships, especially the older we get, we don't really form relationships anymore, like friendship. It's more of a business transaction just for us. We're talking because we both have something valuable and we talk something great and probably be friends afterward because we have value in our own fields.
Mhm.
Like, I'm not gonna talk to you because you're a nice person. That's just not how the world works at all. Like when we're in school, we're hanging out because we're in the same vicinity.
We're in the same
Like
class or
yeah, but, like, we're not gonna talk after that, like, we need to find a glue that keeps us together. That is how life is, and I think they're in that mindset of, like, after college that you have to put effort into relationship to make it work. You gotta find value in yourself, like, people like each other because they offer something valuable. So, like, people might like me for my following, that's fine, or, like, some people like them for their looks or something, but, like, you gotta put value in themselves for someone to like you, they're just not gonna just being nice to a person is not it's just the bare minimum.
right. This is what I love what we do within the Special Olympics, that everybody within the Special Olympics, they're responsible for their own personal best.
Mhm,
And I was being interviewed by a good friend of mine a couple weeks ago, and I gave her basically the raw, unedited version of what it means to me, Amanda, to be in the Special Olympics. And what you hear a lot of is that, the hugs, the high fives, and the medals. And I told her, I said, I don't see it that way. I said, because I came in as an athlete, and after I was done receiving, my medals and things like that, I started to take a very different approach after I became an athlete leader. And it called me and it forced me to be mature. And I find that I work really, really well with other athletes who are in leadership positions just like myself.
mhm,
I find myself that those are the people that I form the best relationships with because we have things in common and we value this organization beyond winning. I know several athletes within the organization who have podcasts and radio shows, like yours. They interview other people with disabilities but they're also in really, really high positions of leadership, like, working with Tim Shriver, whose mother, Eunice Kennedy Shriver, started Special Olympics back in the late 60s. So for me, it really just depends. I have no shame in admitting this, but three of my very good friends within the Special Olympics are not athletes. They're staff members.
Mhm.
And I truly enjoy like hanging out with them because for me, not that this is a bad thing, but for me it's not about talking about, how many medals and things like that I won. For me, they support me as a poet, and they support me in ways of media and helping me get my poems out there and uh into the world. And they also help to support me with making my jewelry. That's another thing that I do that I absolutely love. As a Special Olympics athlete leader, I'm getting ready to do this conference in San Francisco, and I said I absolutely plan on selling some of my jewelry to support the Special Olympics athlete leadership program here in Northern California.
Let's talk about the Special Olympics. I want to set up the story arc. You were depressed after losing your vision, understandably so. Have here you are a Special Olympics global ambassador. How did you get such a prominent position, and how do you train to be one?
Yeah, I think it's really honestly what we were talking about earlier. Working incredibly hard, which is, what I did. So you go through the core courses, which is a 2-day training, or at least that's what it was when I did it back in 2019. We did it in person, where at the end of the training you are to deliver a 2-minute speech, and then you are, for lack of a better term, critiqued on your speech. And everybody passes. It's not one of those, you did horrible, you don't pass. Everybody passes. But for me, I wanted to I wanted to go first because I was nervous.
Oh,
And
I always go for it because and then you don't have to worry about anything else for the rest of the
right,
yeah, I don't.
right, right.
And then they also treat you nicer too. 'Cause they always say like, "Oh, I love this person." It's like, and then like by the last one, they just shred everything.
Yeah, yeah. So I ended up going first with the Special Olympics speech, and I was incredibly nervous. I was like sweating and everything, and I honestly thought that they were going to kick me out, and I think that we kind of touched on it a little bit more or earlier when you and I were talking about, stereotypes of persons and things like that with disabilities. And I was like, I'm not exactly sure if I necessarily belong in this. In fact, I don't think that they're going to really ask me to do any, speeches or anything. Of course they're gonna let me finish the class, but it's like I don't know if they're necessarily gonna allow me to do like any speeches or anything. And prior to becoming an ambassador, I had only been an athlete for under a year. So I didn't know that. I didn't know how it worked. I didn't know if they picked a certain type of ambassador. I didn't know if you had to, like raise your hand and volunteer for different things. It's literally you volunteer to speak places. You express the interest in wanting to speak at competitions. You express the interest of wanting to do all of these things, and they can't force you to do anything. It's not up to the staff, well, let's force you to do these things. No,
Mhm.
it's it's your genuine interest in wanting to do it. It's like, if for instance I've lobbied Congress 2 years in a row, and I expressed interest the first year, and then the second year, so this past year, I was asked to do it.
Ah, there you go. You're moving up.
Yeah, exactly. Hi, I'm going to express interest the first year, and the next year, oh, I was asked to do it. But I think it goes back to what we were saying really earlier about, and I'm just going to paraphrase, people with disabilities taking initiative, taking the initiative to, in some cases, hi Tyler, I want to go ahead and do this this, opportunity. I want to go and have this opportunity to go ahead and do this. And, most of the time, from my experience, he's been completely supportive of me doing, I don't want to say whatever I want, but pretty much like whatever I want. Because it's having that passion, it's having that drive, it's having that representation of people with disabilities that we
Well,
are all.
people hired because they wanna have you, like, if they didn't want you, they wouldn't hire you, you know? Like, they would hire me, for example, like, yeah, like, they
They
want you for you, like, they don't want you to change because then it would be not you.
Right, they Tyler has absolutely every right to go ahead and fire me if he does not agree with what it is that I'm doing. You're not gonna put me in front of Congress and not know what's going on. We have to prep before we go before we stand before Congress. We have to write our speeches, and then we have to have them checked. So we can't just be like off the cuff.
I can't stick to a script.
I have a so let me tell you what happens for our prep work in Congress. So we typically do it in February.
Mhm.
And I have some of the most difficult time doing it because you have to write your speech. And I'm not saying that you have to stick to it, but they do want you to submit a typed speech to the staff. And I would say that I have a hard time doing that because I'm so spontaneous.
Yeah. Well, I know time is also an issue too, so it's better to have a speech just for timing. I know
Right,
you could
right.
talk for hours.
Oh, please. Please, I could talk for especially in regards to topics of, interest. For me, I know we spoke earlier before we began recording, and one of my concerns was I don't want to spend the whole time talking about Special Olympics. Well, that's a lie. I want to very much spend the majority talking about Special Olympics, especially within leadership, because I love it so much. And I think it's because it's not something that you hear about.
Yeah, I mean, I heard of it growing up, but I have never even approached it, never talked to a person about it. It always just seemed like this fallacy in a way kind of thing. Like, I don't know, like, you're the first person I'm like actually like having a real conversation with. So I'm like interested about the topic.
Yeah, yeah. No, like the Special Olympics, I think the best way to describe the Special Olympics, so I formally, informally transitioned out of the athletic part of it earlier this year. I didn't have to sign a whole bunch of paperwork, but I felt that it would be appropriate that I sit down and have a conversation with Tyler, who's over our athlete leadership program. And I was honestly ready to cry. And I was like, I want to formally transition into doing full-time leadership activities. Is there a formal process? So he's like, no, there's no formal process. But what he did remind me of is that the Special Olympics is there to be whatever it is you want it to be. And I think that a lot of people don't always necessarily realize that it's there to be whatever you want it to be. If you want to be an 80-time gold medalist in the Special Olympics, you can do that. I'm not saying that they're going to randomly give you medals. You have to win 80 competitions and come in first place, but you can do that.
Does this Special Olympics do participation trophies or no?
They have participation ribbons.
Oh no.
Oh no?
I mean, I don't think it's right. I don't like them at all. Like
Mhm.
I'll get like nomination tokens and such from the mail and I just throw them out. Like I don't really care like this. Like I want the top prize or second or third. I don't want, you know, I'm not just happy to be there. Like I want something. Like I want something that represent a why I got it, not just because I just showed up. 'Cause that's the bare minimum.
But that is, one of the things that makes the Special Olympics so great, that they they do include everybody. Now, the difference is, do you want to do your personal best? That's another thing that we do. It's your personal best. It may not necessarily be the best because we know, as we already know, the best is you're going to win first place as being a gold medal, but that's different than saying that you want to do your personal best can be a fourth place ribbon, a fifth place ribbon, or those things. But if that doesn't work for you, then train really really hard. And I tell you something, I'm a horrible bowler, not in probably a worse bocce player because of my vision, but I refuse to let that stop me. I said I'm
Wait,
going
hold
for
on.
gold,
I have here you won second place in bowling.
but that's not first place. But yes, I did.
That
Yes.
I mean, that's pretty close though. Like that's as close as you'll ever be.
And I did it with an eye patch because I actually just had a surgery with that whole retina business.
So you had a
So
handicap on top of a handicap.
yeah.
Man, see, you should have won first place then. Can you imagine you had no eye patch? First
so
place for
so
you.
so that pirate princess we were talking about, I was
There you go.
totally doing that.
There you
I
go.
couldn't
You
see
there you go. You could have been
and I
first
had a
place right
headache.
there.
Yeah,
You're
yeah.
first place in our hearts. Let's put it that way.
But the time that I was active in the sports for the Special Olympics, I really just wanted to win because I wanted the medals to hang on my wall. But as we already know, for me specifically, that God allows us, or rather allowed me, to go down a different path, and that path was leadership. And they don't give you medals in leadership, or
No.
at least I've never received any. They give you the medals for the sports that you play. They don't give you medals in leadership. So in my view, what I've seen for myself is that leadership, even within the Special Olympics, takes some type of maturity, because in some cases, they're not going to pat you on the back and say, "Great job, here's your medal."
Exactly.
Um,
That's adulthood.
yeah, yeah. Now they might tell you, I've heard, you know, great speech and things like that. I've heard that for myself. I had to realize that my gold medal moment within the Special Olympics is not receiving a physical gold medal. My gold medal moment is speaking in front of 200 people, whether it's reciting the Special Olympics oath in front of people, or, you know, lobbying Congress, or speaking at Stanford. Those are my gold medal moments, even though I don't physically receive a gold medal.
Yeah, that's I mean, that's adulthood. Like you're not most of us don't get any awards or anything. Like maybe we'll get like an award after like 20 years or like maybe employee of the month or something, but that's adulthood. Like no one giving you anything. Like you pay your bills, like they'll just see you next month. That's kind of life in itself, but not as grand as it is. Like most of us are just average people living average lives. I think it's different with the disabled community because I don't know of many, but like a lot would not live a normal life. So they don't have like the receiving a paycheck, paying the bills, saving up money, buy a house or something. Like they don't have that. We all need to go through bad things, but we also need kind of like I guess like an exchange of stuff between us. To like, I give you money and then like I have a house, like it has to be a even exchange of like goodness. Like you do good things and then more people will do good things too. And I think a lot, I think like a big thing is like isolation with the disabled community that it creates more resentment towards them and I reflects poorly on them and it becomes a vicious cycle. Could then like they're always mean and stuff, but like they have to take care of themselves. So you mentioned like the participation trophies. It that's not real life because most people never get them. I want to be the first, second, or third, or like they try again next year. So like I don't like that aspect for it. I don't know. I feel like we're babying the disabled community too much. It's a great organization, and I think the community is probably really great to feel inclusive. But is it doing more good or is it doing more harm for people?
I I think
It's a
it
hard. I think it's a hard question to answer. I don't think there's like are right or wrong. It's just it's a difficult it's a difficult topic.
Yeah, for me, I think it really just depends on who you ask. Kind of going back to when I was transitioning into full time leadership at the beginning of the year, where you know Tyler basically gave it to me straight. The Special Olympics is there for however to support you in whatever way you want to be supported, and I think that is absolutely the best way to put it, or the best way to phrase it, because he did give me that gentle reminder of not everybody in the Special Olympics, they're even there to win medals. And I'm sitting there looking so dumbfounded. I'm sitting there thinking, no, no, everybody wants to win medals. And he's like, no, 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 no. Some people in the Special Olympics just want to make friends. So it's like having that human, it's they want that human connection. They don't care about the medals. They don't care about being the best. So I think what I love about the Special Olympics is it's there to serve. In Northern California, we have 26,000 athletes. So it's there to be of
Wow, that's a
service
lot.
to, yeah,
Sheesh.
it's there to be of service to you in whatever way you need. If you're looking for the social interaction, they can help you with that. If you're looking for medals, they can help you with that. If you're looking for dance parties, we do a lot of, we do a lot of those things to go ahead and accommodate whatever it is that you're looking for. If you're looking for leadership roles like myself, we do that as well. Another thing that I'm working on and hoping to work on within the next year and a half are bringing some of these courses that some of the other states teach. So bringing some of these courses to Northern California, because I would love to teach new leadership skills to athletes. Those are, some of the things that are really truly on my heart. I never thought I would be doing it. I was not necessarily comfortable being an ambassador at first. And I say that because how the Special Olympics is viewed by society. Oh, well, everybody gets medals, everybody gets hugs, everybody gets milk and cookies. And I, didn't want those things. Like as I told you earlier, some of my best friends or some of, my biggest supports within the Special Olympics are the staff members,
Hmm.
and not always the athletes, but I love engaging with staff. I'll come to the office and come see them, and bring. I make my own tie blankets, and I made three of the staff members. I made them like these lovely blankets, not because they helped me win medals or anything, just because you guys are really cool, and you guys got up really early to support me while I was being interviewed by Tim Shriver. So, which to me, so much better than winning a gold medal. I want to be interviewed. Well, I was interviewed by Tim Shriver, but it meant so much to me that they got out of bed, hopped on Zoom, and they interviewed me. He interviewed me towards the end. So they had to wait, to hear my portion of the interview. But to me, that was the best part. And I love the staff for that, because they fully support what it is that I want to do in the Special Olympics, even though it's not sports.
I'm gonna make an observation on your whole life story that I think when you were growing up, people shit on you for the longest time and you didn't feel value at all. And now that you're a leadership role, you feel valued for yourself. And so, like, now other people see the value in themselves. So you appreciate that more. So it's worth more than any trophy they could ever give you.
My friend, that's an accurate assumption. And I I think that we spend so much time just being negative. When you hear somebody has like a disability, we spend so much time being for lack of a better word, gloomy towards the situation. my person, or my son, my daughter, my child, they have a disability, and their life is going to be really, really hard. And not to go ahead and discount that our lives may not be harder than somebody who is neurotypical, because I would be lying if I said, "No,
Mhm.
our life is easy." No, it's not. I can definitely say that my upbringing was difficult due to being hydrocephalic and having to be in the hospital and having 21 brain surgeries and having my head shaved, and in some cases the procedure not working, so going back in and having to deal with this all over again. And then of course the issue of retinal detachment and things like that, and having a later diagnosis of autism. My life has been difficult, but as I mentioned earlier, for me, being so grounded in my faith and grounded in who God has called me to be has made it easier for me. I wouldn't trade my disabilities. Have they been frustrating at times? Yep. But I wouldn't trade them.
Yeah, I mean, I think that for most disabled people, I think you can give yourself an excuse for it. Like, yes, you had a bad time. I mean, others had a bad time, but they're not talking about it. Yes, our lives are significantly harder, but doesn't mean we kind of have a right to complain, but we really can't complain. We just have to deal with it and move on. And I find most people either too positive about it, but also too negative about it. I think there just has to be a realistic. Most people that have a disability, they're just living their life normally. Like some of us are using our disability as a pro to us because that as identity, but we also don't make it about our disabilities too, because we have like other attributes to us. We're using our disability stories and whatnot to make a point, but we're not using it at the forefront. Like I would say both of us are saying we are person with a disability, not a disabled person, and just making the best of what we have.
Yeah. I think for me, this is kind of, I guess, strange for me to say. I would say that I found a lot of value within myself after receiving a diagnosis of autism, because growing up, I spent so much time trying to figure out what's wrong with me. Why can't I do this? Why can't I do that? Why am I, you know, why am I delayed in certain areas? Like, say, for instance, where my sister is progressing. She and I were only 19 months apart. So if she can do it, how come I can't do it? So I think for myself, after finding out that I was, you know, on the spectrum, it opened up a lot of doors for me, essentially making my life easier, but allowing my life to make more sense that it had made in the past, if that makes sense.
So let's talk about your autism. So you were diagnosed with autism at 26. I know it's complicated because you're a woman, and I have here it is normal for women due to bullshit medical politics of having boys be prioritized to be diagnosed for girls or not. How did you get started to be diagnosed?
So my sister's actually, she recently completed her doctorate in psychology. So I was diagnosed 2016, terrible in math. So a while back. And she was like, I think you meet the criteria for autism spectrum disorder. And I was like, what?
Mm.
So by that time, my parents were, on board with allowing me to get to test. And lo and behold, 6 hours later, they were like, yes, you have a diagnosis of autism. And I cried. Not because didn't speculate that I wasn't on the spectrum. I absolutely did. I just didn't want to hear it because, once again, how the media portrays
Mhm.
individuals with autism. Oh my goodness. If I don't get my way, I'm going to hit my head against the wall, or if something doesn't go my way or you interrupt my routine, I'm going to spiral into this really deep dark depression, and it's going to be just all all bad news. So I think for myself, I spent and still try and spend my time showing that just because you have a diagnosis of autism, that you still can't be a cool, interesting individual. And I think that I try to dismantle that stereotype of the fact that people with autism can do amazing things, but we can also fall in the middle. I don't consider myself a super genius. I'm definitely not a savant. So definitely Rain Man is not what should come to mind when when you hear about me having a diagnosis of autism. But it's not to say that I'm not still amazing in my own way.
So you say you got diagnosed with autism and then you cried, and obviously because you said the reason for it. But then you mentioned earlier saying that after you were diagnosed with autism, you say you like changed and became a better person. So how did you, what changed in you that you became a different person?
Yeah. So I started researching success stories of individuals with autism. And if you were a woman with it, I love that person, all the more. Like Temple Grandin, love her, hope to meet her one day. But I think for me, what I had to do was I had to Google what are the most extreme cases of autism and what are some of the more milder cases of autism, and essentially see what are some of the similarities between some of these cases and myself. So it's really just going and taking that disability and finding the joy in it. I'm not saying that social situations aren't still difficult for me. They absolutely are. Trust me. If you're if you're a guy and I find you cute, I am going to struggle. And I admit that. I'm going to like sweat and become tongue-tied and just possibly run away. I say that because years ago, I was a Jonas Brothers fan, and Joe, who is the lead singer of the Jonas Brothers and my favorite at that time.
Mhm. Okay, so before I take the mic away from you, is there anything you want to say, promote, any words of wisdom, no winning lottery numbers? The mic is all yours.
Well, I think the winning numbers are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Pink chair, water bottle. There you go.
Okay.
Just kidding. I think what's important to remember that those of us with any type of disability, we can choose who and how we want to be in this world. We shouldn't let special needs hinder us. We should use our disabilities and our challenges to make us better, to make us stronger.
Okay, I couldn't have said it any better myself. Thank you, Amanda, so much for giving me your time. Thank you, everyone, for listening and watching, and I'll see everyone next time. Bye.
Thank you so much.